Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. As some of you might know, I do have another car as well, which is a 2009 Toyota Camry. It's quite a good car. As you can see, it's only got 120,000 kilometers on it. But of course the head unit in it is a bit antiquated or old, so I'm looking to replace it with a Chinese Android Auto head unit. Same company that I used for my Mitsubishi Pajero head unit install, which has been going quite well since I installed it. It was, I think, over a year ago. So today I'm going to go ahead and replace the head unit in this 2009 Toyota Camry, and we'll just see how it's done. The first step before doing anything further is to pop the bonnet and disconnect the battery. Okay, once you've done that, disconnected the battery, the next step is to go to the sides, remove these two plastic panels, one on each side. They're just secured by clips, so you just need to pull them up and they will come apart without too much trouble. Once you remove them, you'll see these two screws. Use a Phillips head screwdriver and undo these two screws. Once you've undone those two screws, which are sitting down here now, you should be able to pull this panel off and just remove it. Once you've undone those two screws, the next step is to try and remove this panel off. And to do that, the first step is to unscrew this. So you just twist it over and unscrew the top of the gear shift. Once you've removed the top of the shift knob, you just need a panel removing tool or a flathead screwdriver. Just insert it in here, and you need to lever out this particular trim panel from around the shift knob. Okay, so once you've removed this particular trim panel, you can just turn it around to see where the clips are positioned. So you've got an idea when you're putting it back in as to where it goes. So once you've done that, the next step is to remove this center console. It's just held in by clips, so you just have to pull it up and outwards, or use a panel removing tool to help you. But this whole particular assembly should just come out together. All right, so after you remove the trim panel, this center console, it just pulls off. You can just pull it up and it will come off. It does have clips underneath. So if you give it a good pull, the clips will come undone and you can just pull this whole assembly off. Now you can put it to the side, and this particular unit should just be able to come off. So you can just pull it off, take it off, disconnect any harnesses at the back. Then we'll move on to the next step, which is to undo the air condition vent. So once you remove the bottom panel, you'll get access to these two 10mm bolts down here. And once you remove the aircon vent, you'll get access to these two 10mm bolts down here. So just use a socket wrench with an extension and take all of these off. Quick side note, while I was removing this particular panel, I found it very hard to do so with the gear shift being in this position. So I reconnected the battery transiently, moved it into drive as I levered it out of the position, or rotated it and twisted it off, and then just put it back into park and then disconnected the battery again. So if you have the same issue as I did, you may want to just put the gear shift into drive just momentarily to move it out of the way. Okay, so once you've removed these four 10mm bolts, all you need to do is just pull the whole thing up and it'll just unclip from the back. And then you just got to undo the individual harnesses and take out the whole head unit stereo. Okay, so once you pull this thing off, as mentioned before, you will see these individual harnesses connected to the head unit. So you just unclip them one by one and then take the whole thing off. Okay, now we've got the head unit all out of the way, just sitting here on this pool table. And we can look at this new head unit and how we're gonna replace it. So just the cables and accessories and harnesses that come with it. Quick start guide. I ordered a reversing camera as well, and they kindly provided it to me. And the actual head unit itself. So we'll just go ahead and open it up, and then we'll unscrew this particular head unit from the screws here. These screws here. I think there's 3 on this side and 3 on this side. So 1, 2, 3. And I believe we most likely will have to put this particular head unit in place of this one and put the screws back in. But we'll unwrap this one first and see how this one fits in. Okay, so once you've undone the 3 screws, or these little ones, that attach the 2 brackets to the head unit, the head unit will just slide off of this particular assembly. The 2 brackets are attached to this particular assembly, so I've just taken one of them off to make it a bit easier for it to slide off. But It's not very hard to slide it off once you've taken the screws off. As you can see, these are the two little areas where the actual head unit goes on. So you just got to slide it off and this thing will come off. And now you can use your new head unit, and using these two sections here, just slide it back into place, and then we'll secure it further. Okay, so as it turns out, these brackets don't really line up with the holes on this head unit. So not ideal, but looks like we might just have to mount it with the aid of just these clips. So yeah, ideally I would have preferred for a more sturdy fixation for these brackets to line up with the holes in this head unit, but it's just not designed that way. So it is a smaller head unit, as you can see. It's going to be a lot lighter than this particular one, so it may not need all that extra support. But anyway, there's not much we can do now, so we'll just go ahead and just take it back to the car and do all the attachments. Okay, so the next step is to look at the manual or the quick start guide. Look at all the individual ports in the back of the head unit and see which particular cable goes to which one. So you start putting them on, including the one for the GPS, the 4G antenna and whatnot. And then subsequently we'll go ahead and make the connections to the actual car. Okay, here we are. We've made the myriad of individual connections to the cables and the harnesses that came supplied with the head unit. So we'll just go through them one by one. So it can be a little bit confusing. So starting from here, this one is for the GPS. So this top one here, you're just looking at the head unit a bit twisted. Sorry, that's the only way I could put it on my lap. So this is for the GPS. The one underneath is for the 4G antenna. Now this particular one, the first one from the left, on the top, is for the reversing camera. The next one, which is this one here, is for a USB antenna or for a USB port. Second one is again for a USB port. This particular one is the one that attaches to those cables coming in from the car. So these individual harnesses or attachments will attach to those ones. So we'll do that when we're putting it back in. This one looks like a small fuse down there. This one has got all these auxiliary cables and inputs that we're not going to be using, but it's also got the harness or the attachment for the 4G SIM card, so which we do need. So just have your SIM card set up and ready, and then you just place a little plastic cover with it on it that comes supplied with it. So that's pretty much it. This top one there that goes to the radio, which is that little white one there, coming from the car. So we'll attach it when you put it back in. So that's pretty much it in terms of connections. So we'll just go ahead and put things back and connect them back in place. Okay, so once you've made all the connections and put everything back in place, it might be time now to reconnect the battery, turn the car on, and make sure everything is working okay before you secure everything back. Okay, so we've reconnected the battery. Let's put in the key, turn it, and see what happens. There you go. As you can see, it's working. Everything seems to be in place. Looks beautiful. Similar unit to the one I've got in Pajero. The GPS seems to be working. It's got the date and time right. The display seems to be working. Excellent. All right, look, I'm pretty happy with it so far. So what I'll do is I'll just turn the car off again and make the connections, put everything back into place. And once everything is done, we'll just make another video. Okay, so that's all done. The head unit's in place firmly now. It's attached by clips to the air vent as well as clips underneath. I would have preferred if it was a little bit more secure by attaching to the bracket, but it's just that, yeah, the screws for the bracket wouldn't just align with the screws on the head unit. But it's pretty secure, sturdy. It's not gonna move, it's not gonna go anywhere. We put everything back in, all the trim panels and stuff. So we're just gonna start the car again and let's do one final check. There you go. So it's the same head unit as the one in my Mitsubishi Pajero, as I previously mentioned. It's made by a company called Isudor, and they make really good Android Auto head units or Apple CarPlay head units. So I'll go ahead, configure it further a little while later, including installing all the apps and stuff and connecting it with the Wi-Fi and activating the 4G in it. But so far pretty happy with it. It looks quite nice. It's sort of fitting in well with the other fascia, and I'll put a link to the product in the video as well in the description. Hope you guys liked the video. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.